I always believed our community beach was one of the neighborhood's finest assets. That modest stretch of lakefront property served as the true gem of Lakeview Estates, and the primary reason I had paid a premium for my home 3 years earlier. Every summer weekend, families gathered there, children splashed joyfully in the water, and neighbors genuinely connected with one another. The only drawback was our HOA president, Karen Winters. Karen had become infamous in our community, and not for positive reasons. She had ascended to power promising to protect property values, but soon exposed her real obsession, controlling every detail of our lives through ever more absurd regulations. Her trademark tactic was materializing suddenly whenever anyone appeared to be enjoying themselves too much, clipboard ready to document infractions. I had successfully avoided her scrutiny for years by maintaining a low profile. But everything changed last summer when our community confronted a real safety emergency. It began when 2 children nearly drowned at our beach over Memorial Day weekend. Fortunately, a resident who happened to be a former lifeguard rescued them just in time, yet the incident served as a frightening wake-up call. Our neighborhood had expanded significantly, with more families and children using the beach than ever before. At the emergency HOA meeting that followed, even Karen appeared to acknowledge that safety improvements were essential. The board voted unanimously to erect a proper lifeguard tower and employ certified lifeguards for the summer season. As a civil engineer with valuable construction connections, I offered to supervise the project. The permits were granted swiftly due to the safety implications, and I worked closely with county officials who proved remarkably cooperative once they grasped the circumstances. The tower would be a straightforward yet efficient design, raised sufficiently to provide lifeguards with clear oversight of the entire beach area. Construction was scheduled to start on a Monday in early June, to complete everything before the major 4th of July festivities that traditionally drew crowds to our lakefront. The Sunday before the start date, I went to the beach to delineate the designated zone with survey stakes and caution tape. All appeared in order when I departed that evening. But when I returned Monday morning, accompanied by the construction crew, I discovered something that infuriated me. A huge concrete planter had been positioned squarely in the center of our marked construction site, and standing beside it, with arms folded and a victorious grin, was none other than Karen Winters. "Good morning," she greeted with overly saccharine cheer. "I'm afraid there's been a change of plans. The board has reconsidered the lifeguard tower project." I was momentarily rendered speechless. "Karen, what are you talking about?" "The board voted unanimously. I have all the permits. The construction crew is here and ready to begin." She tilted her head as if addressing a child. "Well, as president, I hold final authority over aesthetic matters, and I've concluded that a lifeguard tower would be an unsightly blight that would diminish property values. This charming planter is a far more appropriate enhancement for our beach area, don't you agree?" The planter was far from charming. It was an enormous, unattractive concrete behemoth that surely weighed several hundred pounds. "How did you even manage to get this thing here?" I asked, still struggling to comprehend the situation. Karen pointed toward a landscaping truck parked nearby. "My cousin owns Green Valley Landscaping. He was delighted to assist when I described the circumstances." The smug smile never faded from her expression. I drew a deep breath, striving to remain professional. "Karen, this isn't about aesthetics. It's about safety. 2 kids almost drowned here. The tower location was carefully chosen based on visibility standards and approved by county officials." She dismissed my words with a wave of her hand. "Those children shouldn't have been swimming without supervision to begin with. Their parents should exercise greater responsibility. Besides, I've decided we'll redirect the funds toward installing security cameras instead. Much more practical for preserving order." At that moment, the construction foreman approached, visibly puzzled about whether to proceed. The crew was already on the clock, and any delays would incur costs. I requested a few minutes from him and turned back to Karen. "You can't unilaterally overturn a board decision," I stated calmly, "and we already possess the permits and approvals. Removing that planter and continuing with construction is the only lawful course here." Karen's expression grew stern. "I've already contacted the county to revoke those permits. And as for the board, I'm confident they'll align with my perspective at our next meeting. In the interim, if you attempt to move this planter or build anything here, I'll pursue trespassing charges." She patted the HOA bylaw binder she perpetually carried like a sacred text. Section 12. Paragraph 4 clearly grants me authority to block unapproved alterations to community property. I was beginning to lose my composure, but kept my tone steady. "Karen, you're incorrect about your authority in this matter. The board's vote and the county permits supersede your personal opinions. Please remove the planter so we can proceed as planned." Her eyes narrowed. "I don't think you understand who you're dealing with. Perhaps you've forgotten that your deck extension from last year exceeds the approved dimensions by 3 inches. She smiled coldly. "It would be unfortunate if the HOA had to enforce measures requiring you to demolish it." And there it was, the threat. Classic Karen. I shouldn't have been surprised, but it still caught me off guard. She'd evidently been holding this leverage in reserve. She probably maintained dossiers on every resident containing potential violations to deploy as needed. I resolved to attempt one final reasonable appeal. "Karen, this isn't about me or you or me. It's about the safety of children in our community. The Lifeguard tower could literally save lives. Is that truly worth sacrificing for whatever point you're trying to prove?" For a brief instant, I thought I detected a flicker of doubt in her expression, but it vanished almost immediately. "The decision has been made," she stated firmly. "The planter stays. The tower does not. End of discussion." With that, she turned and strode away, leaving me standing there with an idle construction crew and a ludicrous concrete barrier. I apologized to the foreman and informed him that we would need to reschedule. As the crew packed up their equipment, I took out my phone and placed 2 important calls. First, to the head of the HOA board to describe what had transpired, and then to my contact at the county permit office. What I discovered from those conversations altered everything. First, Karen had indeed reached out to the county, purporting to speak for the HOA, but she lacked any authority to revoke permits that had been duly issued. More crucially, my contact clarified that tampering with the safety structure sanctioned by the county was not merely a breach of HOA rules, it constituted an actual violation of County Ordinance Abudo, public safety. The following morning, I returned to the beach with reinforcements, 2 other board members, my county contact, and a police officer. Karen was summoned to meet us there. When she arrived and beheld the assembled group, her customary assurance wavered briefly, but she swiftly regained her composure. "I see you've brought quite the entourage," she remarked with strained cheerfulness. "But I'm afraid it changes nothing. As I explained yesterday, the board has reconsidered the Lifeguard Tower project." The vice president of the board stepped forward. "That's not true, Karen. The board never voted to reconsider. You acted entirely on your own, which is a violation of HOA procedures." Karen's face flushed with anger. "As president, I have executive authority in matters of community aesthetics. If you'd bothered to read the bylaws," the county official interrupted her. "Miss Winters, I'm afraid this transcends HOA bylaws. You've illegally interfered with a county-approved safety installation. That planter must be removed immediately, and construction of the Lifeguard tower must proceed as planned." Karen appeared genuinely shocked. "Illegal? That's absurd. This is private community property, which is still subject to county safety regulations," the official explained patiently, "especially when it comes to water safety installations. The permit was issued after determining there was a demonstrated need for improved safety measures following multiple near-drowning incidents." Karen turned to the police officer, clearly expecting him to support her. "Officer, these people are threatening to trespass on community property. As HOA president, I'm asking you to remove them." The officer looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, from what I understand, they have proper authorization to be here and to construct this safety tower. You, however, placed an unauthorized obstruction that interferes with an approved safety measure. I'm going to have to ask you to arrange for the removal of that planter immediately." Karen's face shifted from red to purple. "This is outrageous. I'm protecting our property values. That tower will be an eyesore, visible from half the community, Miss Winters," the officer continued, his patience clearly wearing thin. You have two options. You can arrange to have the planter removed now, or you can be cited for obstruction of a public safety installation, which is a serious offense. For a moment, I thought Karen might actually relent. But then, in a move that left us all stunned, she pulled out her phone and began recording. "I am documenting this abuse of power," she announced loudly. "You have no right to threaten me. I know my rights, and I know the law. That tower is not being built today or any day." Then, in a bizarre escalation, Karen actually positioned herself in front of the planter, arms spread wide as if physically shielding it. "You'll have to physically remove me if you want to touch this planter," she declared dramatically. The officer sighed deeply. "Ma'am, please don't make this more difficult than it needs to be. Step away from the planter and let's resolve this reasonably." "I am being reasonable," Karen shouted, her voice rising to a pitch that probably carried across the entire neighborhood. "I'm protecting our community. These people are trying to destroy our property values with their ugly tower." What happened next would later become legendary in our community. As Karen continued her tirade, a small crowd of neighbors had gathered to watch the spectacle. The officer again asked her to step aside, explaining that she was now actively interfering with a public safety installation, which was escalating the situation from a citation to potential arrest. Karen responded by sitting down on top of the planter. "Go ahead and arrest me for protecting my community," she challenged, clearly believing this was all an empty threat. The officer looked pained, but proceeded to explain that she was now trespassing and obstructing a safety installation. When Karen still refused to move, he finally did exactly what she had dared him to do. He placed her under arrest. The shock on Karen's face as she was carefully helped off the planter, handcuffed, and led to the police car was something I'll never forget. She kept repeating, "This is a mistake. I'm the HOA president," as if the title granted her immunity from the law. After Karen was taken away, her cousin's landscaping company was contacted to remove the planter, and construction on the Lifeguard tower finally began. The tower was completed just in time for the 4th of July weekend, and it blended in beautifully with the surroundings, hardly the eyesore Karen had prophesied. As for Karen, she was charged with obstruction of a public safety installation and resisting an officer. At her court hearing, the judge was not sympathetic to her explanation that she was just protecting property values. She was sentenced to 100 hours of community service, fined $5,000, and placed on probation for a year. The moment the judge announced the sentence, Karen's face contorted into a mask of pure shock and outrage. 5,000, she shrieked in the courtroom. "But I was just doing my job." The judge banged his gavel and warned her about contempt of court.